edition of the Mindset Game podcast, and I'm your host, James Roberts. Before we get started with this week's show, first off, let me take this opportunity to welcome back the regular listeners. And if this is your first time listening to the show, I hope you enjoy this episode and decide to subscribe to the show. And on today's show, I've got Dan Highchock. Dan is a Paralympian from London 2012, but he also runs his own business and recently launched his book, Zero Resistance Training. So welcome onto the show, Dan.
Thank you for having me.
So before we delve into today's episode, Dan, can we talk about your journey, obviously from going back to the very beginning to where you are now in your fitness life?
God, I'm going to need to condense this down because it's a long story. Many bumps in the road. A lot of bad things have happened, I've been through. But essentially, I had a motorbike accident when I was 5 years old. I got told I would never walk again. Left me hospitalised for months and months and months. And I basically was the fat kid in the wheelchair that never went out the house, was sat inside playing computer games. Went to high school. I went through bullying and all this type of stuff as well. I went to high school and I was, in the PE classes, just sat in a classroom while everybody else was playing football, rugby, or whatever it was on that particular day. And I just thought that was normal to me. I wasn't sad. It just was what it was. And one day we got a new PE teacher that was a basketball fan, and he told me that I could play basketball in a wheelchair, and I was just like, okay, just right over my head. I didn't think anything more of it, and then a couple of weeks later, he gave me some contact details. So thankfully, the guy had gone out and sourced the local team, got contact details, set them up, and I went along with my grandfather one Thursday night in Liverpool. I was absolutely gobsmacked by the sport and what I had in my head, the picture of what it was going to be like and what it actually was like. And this is going back 23 years. So it's a long time ago. And I just fell in love with the sport, and they included me in the first session, albeit for 15, 20 minutes, and then went back the next week, and it just progressed from there to now, where I am. I was going once a week back then. Now I'm a pro player in the Spanish league. I train probably 5-6 hours a day in season, 5 days a week, play on a weekend. I don't play internationally anymore. I finished that a couple of years ago, but I've been all over the world playing. There's not many countries that I haven't been. I've competed in 3 World Championships, 1 Paralympics, 3 European Championships. Represented the Great Britain junior team, and now my life is turning a different way, and I've got my own business. I'm an online personal trainer and nutrition coach. That's working really well alongside my sport, and eventually I will be just transitioning directly out of sport and concentrating on this full-time 100%. So, that's it in a nutshell. There's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs. I've been through a lot of personal issues along the way, but, you keep on fighting the fight, and eventually you get to where you want to be. I'm just happy and grateful that I stuck to it and never lost vision of what I was wanting to achieve.
And Dan, if we're going to go back to your experience of PE as a youngster, do you kind of think that even this day and age, kids that have got a disability are somewhat excluded because the teachers can't think outside of a box?
Absolutely, yeah. Back then, when I had my accident, the authorities wanted to send me to a special school because I was in a wheelchair. That was it. You're in a wheelchair, you go into a special school. Granted, this was a long time ago, and things have changed a lot then, but I think the mentality with a lot of people still isn't where it should be in this type of scenario. Once I got active in PE classes and I started doing a little bit of basketball, then the teachers started thinking of things that I could do, such as, badminton and things like this, and, where I could move a little bit and get involved in certain things. I don't honestly know how it is now at school, but I would imagine there's a lot of, courses that these guys go on to, inclusion courses, I think they're called. There's workarounds on including people with all sorts of disabilities, learning disabilities, and all these type of things to include them in as much as possible into regular activities and regular. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but you get what I'm trying to say.
And if we kind of go back to your first impression of wheelchair basketball, what, if you can recollect, what did you kind of have in your mind as to what the sport was going to be as opposed to when you turned up?
Well, all I know is I was, my wheelchair was this fucking big ugly hospital thing that weighed a ton. And I remember I was like pushing up and down the corridor at school, and my first thought was, I can't imagine pushing this as fast as I can, for 2 hours. And then when I got there and realised that all the basketball chairs that people had were all made to measure, and like I say, going back 23 years, they were still they looked super cool. If we look at compared to what they're like now, they look terrible. But back then, in comparison to the big hospital wheelchair, they looked amazing, and they were so much lighter, and they were made to measure each person. They were still very, very expensive back then. But I just remember seeing 10, 12 players whizzing up and down the court, scoring, shooting the ball from all over, scoring. The skill level was ridiculous. I wasn't expecting it to be like that. I think I almost felt, sad to say this, but I almost felt embarrassed when I was going there, because I would wonder what people would think about me and stuff. And I think this is just a mentality thing, and until our eyes are opened with various things, then you just never know.
And if we kind of move to the present day now, and we come to your book, Zero Resistance Training, what kind of brought that about?
Okay, so I was getting more and more clients into my training and nutrition programs that were wheelchair bound or had disabilities of some sort. Obviously, because I'm in the disabled community, being a wheelchair basketball player, and I was making these plans, and the same sort of problems were cropping up all the time. Whereas, if somebody's training partner didn't turn up, then the guys couldn't do certain things like loading plates onto a bench press, for example, or transferring from the chair to a machine, or maybe the guys didn't like transferring from a chair to machine and felt a bit self-conscious about doing it. And then, if there was no member of staff there to help, then they were basically bollocks. They couldn't complete the workouts. And I thought, this is not good. Like, how can we fix this? And I don't know. My first thought was to build a complete training system using variety of exercises, training methods, etc., that almost any wheelchair can perform, any wheelchair user can perform without the aid of anybody else, using only 3 or 4 pieces of equipment, and without the need to transfer out to the wheelchair. And my first intent was to release it as an ebook. I didn't have a frigging clue how to do it. I was terrible at English at school. I didn't know where to start. So my first port of call was to research how to write an ebook. I got a structure, mapped it out. I actually bought another ebook to see how it was structured in terms of, a forward, introduction, glossary, main content, that type of thing. give myself a load of subheaders, and then built my program into it, and then really filled it out with more content, more. Again, the word fails me. I can't seem to think of it. But yeah, I did that, and then I got told that it could actually be a book, and a Kindle type book. I got the help of somebody. They helped me put it all together, make it look professional. Really, really pleased with the output, and I didn't think that it would, in the first day, reach a #1 spot on Amazon. Only for one day, but it still got there, and it's still continuing to serve people and help people all over the world at the moment. So something I'm very, very proud of, and I'm really glad that when I had that, and it was just a flash in the pan thought in my head. I'm sure you get a lot of these, and if you're anything like me, they go into your head, and 2 minutes later you forgot about it. And with this, it just seemed to stick, and I just took action on it straight away. And once I started, then that was it. It was there in my head, and I was thinking about it. And I did about 80% of the book in about a week, 7 to 10 days. It took me, and then I put it down. I didn't touch it for months and months and months, and then it was one of those things that was always, I'm going to do this, and it never got done. And so I just had to pull my finger out and get it sorted.
And if we kind of touch on like the training aspects of things, Dan, do you believe, and this is probably a PC question now, that when a gym says they are accessible,
yeah,
obviously they don't talk about the actual gym floor. What's your take on that?
I think basically when it says it's accessible in terms of the gym, I would imagine, and from their point of view, that means they can get into the gym either by a ramp. Maybe it has a lift if there's 2 floors, and they have a disabled changing room. Now, there's been plenty of gyms that I've been in, and everything's so tightly packed together. It's a fucking nightmare for any wheelchair user to get down, to get past benches, to get free weights, to maybe go on a plate loading machine and load plates on they're too close to each other. And I actually know a lot of people that are wheelchair users that their local gyms just won't allow them in there. They're not insured, or they come up with all sorts of bullshit excuses. But it makes my piss boil. And somebody wants to get healthy, and there's all these roadblocks there in front of them. Like what's somebody supposed to do? It's not on in my book. Everybody should have the same right to improve their health.
Would you say go even as far as say it's a form of exclusion?
Yeah, I would to an extent, and let me just elaborate on that as well. There's a lot of trainers out there as well, and this is nothing bad on their behalf. I think it's just it's the land of the unknown, and they may be worried about taking on a wheelchair using clients, or they're worried that they might not be able to do something, or I don't know. But it's just it's like they don't want to work with them, and it's not. I don't mean that in a bad sense, like they don't like them. I think it's just they're thinking, how the fuck do I handle the situation? What can I do? And again, there needs to be more stuff out there to educate people on this matter, so that everybody can have a fair crack of the whip at getting fit, getting healthy, and that type of thing.
But if we talk about people in terms of, say, the personal trainers, you would have thought, and I don't want to generalize here, obviously a trainer has learned their skill.
Yeah. And
the ones that are able to adapt should look at it in that same way. The disabled individual is no different from, say, Joe Blogs on the street, because you're not going to, in theory, have the same off-the-shelf program for everybody. So you should think of it in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to slag the fitness industry off here by saying this, and it will upset a lot of people, but for me, trainers fall into two camps at the moment. There are people that go and do the short courses and get qualified, and they can go and start working in the gym, and they, a couple of months previous, they've never done anything like this before, and they're now a trainer in charge of somebody's health and fitness, because the bar is set so low with a lot of governing bodies, shall I say, to get the qualification. And then there's people like yourself that's got a fucking degree in the sports science, and there's other trainers that are looking to continually improve, doing courses, going to seminars, keeping up to date with everything. And it's a real passion for helping people. And I think the people that fall in the first camp that aren't experienced and are not, they're the type of people that will be scared of working with a disabled client, because they're just not educated enough, they're not experienced enough. And I think it's something that I don't know how it would be addressed, but I know for sure in the last 5 years, the amount of personal trainers you see is it's just going higher and higher. And those that are working on the gym floor are reducing prices so much because there's so much competition, and there's not really anything to set them apart, because the majority of people go through the same accreditation type process. And for me, it's not good enough. I think the industry needs to be to a higher standard.
Would you say then that, and I've spoken to another trainer about this, not on the podcast, but in the past, would you believe that following the Australian model, and I think they've got to do it over a couple of years before they can get certified, would you think that would be a better model for be implemented in the UK?
I think it has plus points, and also I don't really know too much about the Australian system. I think it sorts out the people that really want to do it, because obviously there's a massive time commitment as opposed to going on a 12-week course and being qualified in 12 weeks, going from maybe never even stepping foot in a gym before to being a qualified PT in 12 weeks, to having that as a burning ambition as a career, and going and doing 2 or 3 years and studying for it. But on the other hand, if there was a system where people can get an initial qualification as quick as they do, but there's got to be some kind of continuous learning cycle that they go on to keep learning, because you can't, in my opinion, you can't, or you shouldn't be allowed to take care of somebody's health and fitness in 12 weeks. If you've gone from nothing before, it's too short a time. That's my opinion. If you've never had any experience doing anything else beforehand, if you're completely new, so I think that I don't know how they would implement such a system, but I think there should be some kind of maybe you got to sit an exam every year, or you've got to go and do some courses every year to keep up to date with everything that's involved in training and nutrition. I don't know, but I think things could definitely be improved.
But if you talk about the exam, Dan, if we just talk about from the nutrition side of things, it is so basic.
Yeah.
It's, well, you could say quite horrifying in a way that you are taught. And if I use my course as the example, it wasn't even up to date in terms of, what was it? Like saturated fat was looked upon negatively. In terms of, I can't remember what it was, in terms of it actually is something else. That's
Well, I mean, there's a couple of great courses out there at the moment. There's 3 that I could recommend straight away. There's the Shredded by Science course. There's a course by Martin McDonald called the MNU University. And there's another course called I can't remember what it's called, but it's by a guy called Phil Learning. Everything is bang up to date with all the newest research, the journals, the research papers, and you're learning the most current stuff. If you go and do one of these other courses, you're reading stuff that's been wiped out. We wiped the floor with them like years ago, and that's what people are. That's why there's so much misinformation, because people are learning this stuff and it's not correct, and they're verbalizing, they're vocalizing their knowledge, but their knowledge is 5 years old, for instance, in some cases. So yeah, it needs to be sort of a level playing field, and everybody needs to be on the same page.
But I think you probably could go one step further. Obviously, you talked about that obviously wanting to improve yourself year on year, or even you probably condense that from a goal setting perspective as a little bit like short term, long term, and medium. You obviously want to better yourself. You could probably say, and this is something we've talked about off air numerous times, about using the likes of social media. Probably Twitter is a better one, because you've got that engagement with influential people a little bit easier than, say, Facebook.
Yeah, of course. And again, you have social media is both a fantastic and dangerous thing in terms of the fitness industry, because you have one camp trying to work with integrity and trying to work in a manner that is helping people, and trying to diminish this other camp that are self-righteous fucking arseholes that have built up a following and don't know their arse from their elbow. They might be in good physical condition, and people will always confuse that with them knowing what they're on about, and they use that position that they have to not only make a lot of money, but to spreading a load of shit about what's the best thing to do, and in some cases, the stuff that they're saying is that the thing to do is it can be dangerous. So,
but I think with that, and I've touched upon this quite a few times within the podcast, it's probably, in terms of looking at it from a nutritional perspective and your health, he's probably at times questioning things, have that red flag come out when I don't know, it doesn't quite resonate in terms of, it doesn't feel right in your gut. Well, that's probably your body telling you, well, there is something not quite right. Maybe you should delve into it a little bit deeper and see, these are the pros. Well, what are the cons that you're hiding from me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always say to people, you can spot somebody that's full of bullshit because, if you ask somebody a question, think to yourself how many times a certain person has said, I don't know. I mean, if there's a million and one things I don't know, and I'm more than happy to say that and be honest, and maybe I can go and find it out for you if you want me to, but somebody that says they know everything or have an answer for everything, that's a red flag. Another one, if you ask your coach or somebody that has this position of authority as a trainer a question, and they knock you back down by saying, just do as I say, sort of thing, and they can't answer the question, there's a red flag there that says, they're copying somebody else, or they don't really understand what they're trying to teach. I encourage everybody to ask questions, and if somebody's wrong, you're just a level of trust, and there's got to be a level of trust for you to work effectively as client and trainer.
And if we kind of go on to obviously your basketball career and obviously trying to balance that with the PT side of things. Do you think, obviously, if we harken back to your elite side of sport, do you think you have learned some of your craft from the strength and conditioning coaches, nutritionists that you've happened to work with?
In terms the nutritionist side, not so much. I always found them to be a little bit dated, and that's the God's honest truth. The S&C coaches I've worked with have been phenomenal. I've learned a hell of a lot of those over the years, and especially when it comes to doing something that's sport specific, or looking at building strength, for example. I learned a lot working with those guys. A massive part of my learning as well was also hiring some of the best nutrition guys or the best trainers in the world to work with, to then learn from, as well as doing my own learning as well. Sort of just being a sponge, taking everything that I could from everybody that I've worked with and whatnot. So I think it's really important to be able to do that. And anybody that works with a coach, I encourage ask questions, because when you understand something, it makes doing it that much easier.
And in terms of, like, when you say sport specific training, are you better able to, obviously, well, from a training perspective, from a personal trainer, obviously we talk about periodization. Do you think you're better, how would I put it, the word that I want, at understanding and portraying how you want the training to come across? But say if there's somebody's asking you questions, well, why are we doing it this way? Do you think you are better at explaining?
Yeah. I mean, cards on the table. In terms of the strength conditioning, I'm looking at maybe a years-long plan with specific dates and periodizing certain phases. That's not my area of specialty, although I am competent at doing that. My area of specialty is fat loss and metabolism building. It's the area that I like working in most, and it's the area that I've learned the most in. So it makes sense that that's the avenue I go down. But yeah, if for example I'm working with a wheelchair basketball player and they play at a high level, and they have the pre-season, they have the lead up to Christmas, and then after Christmas is when European Cup preliminaries, finals, league finals, cup finals come in. I'm very competent and able to periodize their training in a way where they're going to go through a period of overreaching at the start, building strength, conditioning levels, winding it down before important dates. So they're going to be arriving on the basketball court as fresh as possible, whilst having gained the benefit, the body's recovered and gained the benefit from all the hard work they've done in previous months.
I've lost my train of thought. That's quite bad.
I do it all the time, don't worry.
No, but it's in terms of, I had a question in mind and I was listening to your answer and I can't remember the question. What was it? Oh, what was it in terms of? I'll have to come back to that one. That hasn't happened for a long, long time on the show. In terms of, what was it about? I'll have to come back to that. Gone blank completely. But in terms of, there you go, it's come back to me now. When you say metabolism, I'm obviously working with multiple clients now.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on, this is probably a big one at the moment, between obviously flexible dieting and, like with bro science, what's the word I want? Like clean eating. And,
okay. My take on it is this: I will always encourage a flexible dieting protocol where people will track macros and hit specific daily targets. that just gives them more flexibility, and they can make their own choices, and they can have a life as well as achieving the goals. There's no set meal plans. They can go out and have a drink. They can do whatever they like. And I always think of the 80-20 rule when you're doing this. If you're choosing nutrient-dense foods 80% of the time, you can fill them with the 20% of how you see fit. But the fact of the matter is, it's not for everybody. Some people need to have it rigid, and because when they have a choice, everything goes to pot. And I've worked with numerous people like this, and it just comes down to the fact that they need a rigid meal plan, and they don't want to have to think about planning and tracking and scanning foods with an app and things like this. So, although I always encourage to go down the flexible dieting route, and some people need a meal plan. Other people just need to have simple guidelines when it comes to fat loss, and some very simple tips to help them stay in a calorie deficit, so they're going to be continually losing weight. Some people travel about quite a lot and maybe can't get to the gym for 6-7 days in a row. That's something you just got to work with and find a way around, and you've got to build. For me, you've got to build a plan that fits each person's circumstances, fits in with their work life, their family life, their social life, and when that can fit in with how they do things, they're going to be able to stick to it and have a more sustainable plan, which is going to lead to shit ton more consistency, which then equals results.
And obviously, we've talked about this a lot off air in the past. How come you kind of found yourself to be, we use the analogy, one side of the fence as opposed to others? Because I know, speaking to you personally, you're, I won't say massive hater of meal prep, but can you explain to the listeners how you kind of one side of the fence to the other, as opposed to the other?
I'm just a believer that you don't have to sacrifice everything in your life to achieve the body that you want. You just don't have to do it. And I only know that because I've been through the process of doing this and getting into a condition where I was super, super happy with, low body fat, muscular, and I did that whilst eating everything that I wanted. Yeah, there was periods of times where I would have to go without a little bit and not have as much, but generally I did what I want, and I thought, why would anybody want to do this? Because you see so many people that are dieting and cutting calories, and they're just miserable twats all the time. But again, it's it's a choice that people make, and some people prefer to be like that. And it's not for me. And some people prefer to do a week's meal prep or 3 days meal prep once or twice a week. Again, that's not for me. I just eat as I see fit and track macros. I usually plan the night before what I'm going to have the next day, put it into my app, and then I know what I'm going to be eating the next day. I don't necessarily prep it, but I know what I'm going to be eating.
And if we kind of go now to like your aspirations going forward, Dan, where do you kind of see yourself? And this is the kind of a question I hate, like from a job perspective. Where do you kind of see yourself maybe in the next 5 to 10 years?
On a boat, sipping cocktail. No. No, I just want to continue to build my business, build my brand. In terms of business and the training aspects, I want to keep building the business, building the brand. Then I want to look at building that brand out in terms of having people jump on board and having other trainers work within the brand. And I want to have a real focus on helping the disabled community all over the world, because I think it's what's out there for these guys at the moment is absolute shit, and I think somebody needs to step up and do something about it. And it's why not me? That's what I think.
You bring up a good point there, Dan, in terms of, well, you use that one, the analogy, I want to sit on a boat.
Yeah.
Obviously, from a social media perspective, and probably more so Facebook.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah, it's it is. Yeah, are you talking about the smoke and mirrors effect?
Yeah.
We all know that social media is just a fucking highlight reel, and there's not say how it is, or show the shitty stuff as well as the good stuff. That just portrays and leads people to think that where they want to be is unattainable. You see these people that are in fantastic shape all year round. The fact is that they get a load of photos done in different locations over a period of a month or two, and then they drip feed these on social media, giving the effect that they're all over the world, having photos took with Ferraris and looking fantastic. It's just a load of bullshit. And 99% of cases, and this just makes people get down on themselves, thinking they can't have that body. Why can't I do that? I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough. And this is another mentality that we need to get rid of.
And then the one you didn't touch upon, the from the kind of more the fitness side of things, and probably the professional. Obviously, the ones with the talking about six-figure incomes.
Oh yeah, I mean this is for a lot of personal trainers, and something I've been through, and it's and there's a lot of people who are trained to help people on social media, personal trainers, any type of coach really. That and you go through these programs, you pay a lot of money to go through them, and they bullshit you and say in the next 30 days you could be making X amount of money. Usually it's a six-figure Fit Pro type plan, which means you're going to be making 10 grand plus a month. And I've been through those myself, and it's at the start it was good. It was good, but I think when I started to use those processes, it was at the end of a cycle where the whole world was wise to what was going on. I think a lot of personal trainers need to be wary of these type of people that are asking, upwards of 10 grand to work with them, and basically giving them bullshit. You're looking at bog standard Facebook course, or a website where you go through a number of lessons, but basically they're absolutely terrible. I recommend that if anybody is looking to, or any personal trainers that are looking to develop their career, especially online, there's a guy called Suxer who you need to speak to. He's by far the best guy that I've ever worked with, and his prices are nowhere near £10,000. So, but yeah, and another thing these guys do is they encourage you to, they make you feel basically the salesman, basically, and they spread a lot of lies in order to gain money. So.
But Dan, if we kind of harpen back to kind of your point earlier in the episode, with obviously people not being as experienced, not possibly ever done anything remotely similar in their lives,
mm-hmm.
Do you think then they kind of have, and I won't generalize just to them, you probably could put it across the spectrum, do you think people have kind of blinkers on and are solely looking at, well, okay, this person is going to get me to six figures in the shortest period of time, and they're only looking at the end goal of obviously that income?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I fell into. It's funny though, because when you think about it, as a personal trainer, if your client wanted to get to a certain physique in 30 days, you'd be like, it's not going to happen. Like, you need to work hard, you need to be consistent, you need to be patient. That's what we would tell our clients. In essence, that's what we should tell ourselves in terms of the business. And yeah, it's something that I really had the shock of my life, because first 3 or 4 months of doing what I was doing went really, really well, and then all of a sudden everything that I was doing was not working anymore, and slowly clients are going one by one. And it's only when I really rejigged my whole business model and started to get help of somebody that actually knew what they were talking about and have been through it, in terms of the business model, that's when things really, really picked up for me. So yeah, I'm just grateful that I got put in contact with this guy. But I've been doing research, and looking back a couple of years, the people that were doing, excuse me, these 6-figure FitPro courses at the start, they were making a ridiculous amount of money, and it basically, seems to be good. Sure, it usually is, and it has a shelf life, and it was a relatively short one. So, in terms of the business aspect, it's exactly as you would sell a client. You need to find something that is sustainable, that gives you a level of consistency where you can work, and gives you a level of consistency where you can take a wage on a consistent basis.
And last question, Dan, before we wrap up the episode. If you had to summarize this entire show that we've done today into one sentence for somebody to take away, what would that be?
That's simple. I think what I mentioned in terms of the basketball journey and the business is have a clear goal in mind, have a reason why you want to achieve that goal, and stay the course. It's never going to be constant improvement week by week. If you're looking to lose fat, it's never going to be constant fat loss week by week. It just doesn't work that way. If you're in business, you're never going to be constantly earning more and more money every month. It doesn't work that way. You've just got to keep working hard, keep showing up every day, keep doing what you're good at, keep doing things to the best of your ability. Be a good fucking person, and be consistent and be persistent. And it will take time. Some people will take less time than others. That's just the way life is. But if you stay focused, you'll get there with whatever you want to achieve. You just got to be persistent, stay focused.
I think that's some wise words to live by, Dan. So once again, Dan, thanks for coming on the Mindset Game podcast.
It was a pleasure, mate. Thank you for having me.
And before I forget, I would really appreciate it if you would be so kind as to leave a short written review, as it helps to get the podcast more notoriety, and it would be more visible in future to others, and thus helping more people, which my guests and I are all about. Once again, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time for another episode of the Mindset Game podcast.